Ethen Ostroff, welcome to Legally Contented. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thanks so much for having me, Wayne. I appreciate it. My name's Ethen. I'm an attorney and also an entrepreneur. I tend to do more than I can handle because I like to, diversify my days. I own my own law firm and a virtual assistant staffing company for law firms. My law firm name is Ethen Ostroff Law, and my virtual assistant staffing company is Attorney Assistant.
Ethen, you're the typical type A attorney. You've just decided to focus all that energy on the business of law as opposed to exclusively on the practice of law. I want to get into that stuff with you because it's my understanding that you were the third attorney on TikTok and that you had something like 200,000 followers even before number 4 came up behind you. So I want to dive into short form video, especially TikTok, because that is all the rage today, it seems. And until the federal government shuts it down or forces a merger or forces some kind of sale, it might still be the way to go for many attorneys. But I want to start with your legal background because your father is a prominent attorney here in the Philadelphia area. And I want to talk a little bit about his role, or at least your experience with his firm and that experience, that role in shaping how you view legal marketing and the practice of law, because obviously he was your age in an era where legal marketing was not a big thing. So talk a little bit about how that experience, both as a father off duty at home, but also working with him when you first came out of law school, how that shaped your view of legal marketing and legal content marketing.
Yeah, sure. And I'm grateful to be here, Wayne. Thanks so much. It's been great to get to know you over these last, few weeks and months. You run a great company and I admire what you're trying to do. So thanks for having me here.
Thank you.
In terms of, my dad's impact, obviously when you grow up in a family of lawyers, and my dad was, sort of second generation, his uncle, my uncle, Hi Mayerson, he worked for his uncle. I worked for my dad, basically, middle school, high school, whether I was doing scanning jobs or, moving them to the cloud or, day to day, I always was sort of surrounded with the law. And my dad was in a unique crowd where he, was a very good advocate and really cared obviously about his clients and his case handling ability. But his niche really was bringing in business. And he kind of taught me at a young age that you generate your own oxygen, your own cash flow when you're the generator of cases. So going back in time, he was the first on the Yellow Pages in Western Pennsylvania. He had the first website in the Delaware Valley in 1995, 1996. So, he was always, showing me what being ahead of the curve can do and can impact if you are first in line and willing to accept that you're going to be judged by some of your peers, accept that, the lawyers in the space are going to poo-poo what you're doing, because that's really what makes you stand out. And, you kind of touched on being the third lawyer in the country on TikTok. I posted my first TikTok in the end of September or maybe the first week in October 2019. And I had just, became a lawyer in April 2019. So I was an advertising major at Penn State. So I was always kind of fascinated with the selling yourself as a service. I didn't quite know from marketing to operations to day-to-day case handling where I quite fit. But when I was working in my dad's firm, I had the opportunity to convince them they need the managing partners at the time and my dad that they needed a tech forward-thinking COO. They hired somebody and they quit 3 or 4 months later. So there was this huge vacancy in operations and I moved into that role. And that's kind of how I got to where I am now.
It's incredible to have not only a father who was in the law to give you the lay of the land, but also one who was as progressive as he was in terms of legal marketing and advertising. And I think, generally speaking, personal injury and direct-to-consumer attorneys are going to be more advanced on marketing and advertising than their B2B counterparts. But still, to your point, even today, there are attorneys who are on TikTok, on social media, who get dirty looks from other attorneys at bar events or in court because it's like somehow they are degrading the profession by educating the audience, educating people who aren't attorneys about their legal issues. So it's great that you had that experience. And obviously, it was baked into your view of the world, of the legal world, especially, that it's okay to take chances. It's okay to stick your neck out and test. Let's throw some money here behind this effort, or let's see if TikTok gets some pickup, because the worst thing to happen is to ignore platforms, ignore opportunities that could actually be very fruitful and profitable. But that fear of being judged by the bar just hangs over your head.
It's not just the bar, it's our friends, it's our family, it's our loved ones, it's our, our spouses we're scared to be judged by. And, I don't necessarily have that experience. I picked my spouse and my friends because we are non-judgmental with each other. That being said, something that I kind of live by is two pieces when it comes to content creation. One, just accept that you're going to be judged. Whether you sit on the sidelines, whether you are hitting the game-winning shot, you're going to be judged. So getting over the fact that it's going to happen mentally prepares you to have low expectations about, really caring what other people think, because it's going to happen. I have no control over that. I know I get judged. I know I get called a fake lawyer, but I also know that I've made a cataclysmic impact with thousands, if not millions of people at 30 years old, because I have 100 million impressions on social media. I have generated over 10,000, it's actually 12,000 leads in my first, 15 months of owning my own firm. So, while other people are scared to act because they're scared of judgment, it creates an opportunity for those who are willing to accept they're going to be judged anyway. A kind of way I think about it, I'm sure those who are listening or watching this have heard of somebody named Gary Vaynerchuk. If you haven't seen him, he's Gary V on every social media. He was who said, hey, there's this opportunity on TikTok. Go give it a try. I gave it a try. And on my first video, I had a 250,000 view video. That opportunity doesn't exist anymore. There are now thousands of lawyers on TikTok. But because I was willing to give it a try, when the consumption was way higher than creation, I had my opportunity. And the way I kind of frame it mentally is I think about myself sort of like I'm, LeBron James. I'm on the court. I'm going to hit the game-winning shot because that's my job. But when I miss the game-winning shot, the crowd's going to boo me. Everything to me now is kind of just crowd noise. I get to select who's on my bench, who I take advice from, who I let mentor me, who I actually will value and listen to their opinion. But if you're in my crowd, you could cheer for me, you could boo for me. I don't really hear any of it. So, mentally, I feel like that's a really good way that kind of could get people over that fear.
And I'll add to the sports analogies here. You often hear pitchers in baseball, kickers in football, if they throw a bad pitch, they give up a home run, or they miss a field goal, they have to have a short memory. You can't let what just happened impact your future. Otherwise, it's going to go downhill quickly. So if you have something that bombs, or even if you have something that's great and goes viral, there's no guarantee the next thing is going to repeat that same result. So you have to be level-headed about it and not be afraid to keep on moving, even when sometimes it feels like you're either bulletproof because everything's hitting, or nothing you can do is going to go right because you've had some failures in the past.
Yeah, and please excuse my dog. I do work from home. I just started my practice. I don't even really have a true physical space other than for Google. So I'm sorry about that background noise.
It's all good. It's the authenticity just shining through the audio and video here.
So, something on that note, if you don't mind, Wayne, just real quick, in terms of like fear of direct judgment on your content, like let's say you're scared of a bad comment, for example. If someone, there's two pieces to that, takes the time to consume your content and they put a angry comment on that content, one, that helps your engagement rate. Therefore, they're actually helping you get promoted organically to more people. And two, if you show that person empathy and think, wow, this person must be in a very sad place to, call me an ambulance chaser on my ad. It kind of shifts your framework to feeling bad for that person, not actually hating that person.
To your point about the first aspect, the engagement, it takes a lot of time to stop what you're doing. And even if you rattle off something quickly and it's not thoughtful, the fact that someone stopped what they were doing and turned to your piece of content to engage with you, that there's something there, right? Like it shouldn't be ignored. There's a joke about the classic Howard Stern line where people kept tuning into him to see what he would say next. They didn't like him, but they wanted to hear what he was going to say next. So he got radio listeners and grew his ads and grew his overall kind of prominence because people tuned in to see what he was going to say next or hear what he was going to say next. Same thing here where people are tuning in to see you. The fact that they've consumed your content, it counts as engagement, but there might be something there. And then comes the empathy side, which is maybe if you engage with them and you didn't come across as a crazy person, but you actually came across as a nice, thoughtful person, their tone might change. And who knows who that person knows? Who knows what opportunities lie there for you just to make that relationship nice with a positive comment as opposed to a go F yourself type comment.
Yeah. And trust me, I've gotten called every name in the book. So, being called, one more bad name at this point doesn't really, matter. And that fear of judgment, of, let's say you post something on your Facebook as a reel or, your Instagram and your friends and family see it, those are the people that should be your client. They know you. So if they know that you handle catastrophic injury cases, they should be coming to you. So, if you really believe in the service you're selling, which, at the end of the day, we're just selling services. We all, are just running paper mills. We're taking trees and we're creating paper at the end of the day. It's not that unique. If we don't get ourselves out there and our friends and family don't even hire us, why would you expect that someone that doesn't even know you would?
Let's take on that in a particular way, because it sounded like you had the opportunity, if you wanted to, at your dad's firm, you could have spent the next decade or two building it out, maybe taking over the mantle from him when he's ready to retire. What made you decide a couple of years back to leave and to go out on your own and forge this unique independent path for yourself?
Sure. The age old question. So when I was at my dad's firm, my primary responsibility was after I gave up my files and I moved into an operations role, I oversaw their marketing, their intake, and their transition into the 21st century, where I moved them from Needle's case management system to Litify. And once I got them onto Litify successfully and was running successful mass tort campaigns and was generating cases through referral sources. And, once I saw, where I wanted to go, in full transparency, Wayne, I wanted to take my dad's firm to be, bigger and better than Morgan & Morgan. And that wasn't necessarily what everybody wanted there. And I definitely was an equal, pain for the people there as they might have felt to me at the time. Doesn't mean I'm not overwhelmingly grateful for my opportunities there. And I would not be here today without the opportunity at a younger age to be managing the operations of a full, $100 million revenue law firm. But once I got them successfully onto Litify, and I delegated, several of their tasks to virtual assistants and built out their operations in a way that allowed them to scale, I was successful in my implementation of their new case management system. I was successful in delegating intake, all their admin work to virtual assistants. I was successful in generating cases. And once I started realizing that, when I was sending those leads to referral partners and they weren't converting as well as I wanted them to. And when I brought on my first virtual assistant client, a really big personal or work comp firm in the Philadelphia area, who started with 3 VAs, and as of today, they have 65 through my company. I saw the writing on the wall that, my proof of concept was there, and it was really difficult to get buy-in sort of in the traditional law firm setting. And I wanted to do things different. So I made the decision to leave to start my own firm where I generate my own leads, sign cases, and I send signed contracts to my partners on a referral basis. As of today, I don't have the cash flow to actually handle. Long term, I'd like to cherry pick and handle some cases. But today, I'm not. And I'm placing virtual assistants at firms sort of to generate enough cash to cover the overhead of my scaling firm. So
I might have to give this podcast to the local area law schools to educate students, because you just gave a miniature master class on the business of law and the acquisition of clients and how this works, because it's amazing how few attorneys, even 10 years into their careers, don't understand that there is a system here. There's a process. And even when you hand off a case to a referral, to an outbound referral, there's no guarantee the attorney is going to close that sale. And that is insanely frustrating when you may have had to lay out the cash to acquire the lead, or you've primed that lead to say yes to the attorney, and then you refer them out and the attorney doesn't call them for a day or 2 or 3 or 10. How would you handle that when it comes to referral attorneys who kind of bungle the handoff? They fumble the handoff.
Yep. So I won't say their name, but the first successful mass tort campaign I ran on Facebook and TikTok ads. Now TikTok ads manager, and we're not going to get too deep into how to actually place ads. It's just not the subject for today, but TikTok does not allow legal advertising the same way they used to. I was the only lawyer in the country running personal injury ads for about 2 months. I was generating like $4 to $5 leads on TikTok. And then they kicked me off, which sucked, but I'm still having success on Facebook and Instagram. What I learned right when I started my practice and when I was at my dad's firm is that if you are not in control of conversion, nobody makes money. And increasing your conversion percentage from a pre-contract standpoint is the only KPI that matters. And by KPI, I mean key performance indicator that you incentivize and bonus your team off of. So I built a KPI structure that incentivizes and pays a individual bonus and a team bonus on the most important thing, which is getting the paperwork signed. And in January, in my 13th month of practicing, we signed 300 cases. That's a combination of lead gen plus conversion. But there's a lot of referral partners out there who will generate these leads, whether organically, through ads, and then they'll just kind of pass them off to the law firm to convert. And what I've learned really quickly is that, generally speaking, unless you can convince me, I assume your conversion sucks, honestly. Unless you show me under your hood and can prove to me that you call your leads 15 times like I do until you give up, that you have a cadence of follow-up, that you touch your leads at least every 3 days. Here's an interesting one. How frequent do you hear that a law firm has a full-time outbound dialing intaker for nights and weekends? It's shocking. I have seen 5 to 10 out of my hundreds of law firms I've talked to that have, like, anybody that is doing outbound follow-up for nights and weekends. And we think about it, it's like everyone's at work during the day. They're not sitting by their phone waiting to be intaked for their personal injury case. They're busy. And yet no one staffs for this. So my team is 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week, outbound and inbound dialing on my leads 15 times until they convert. And I send signed contracts. And in some case types, like let's say medical malpractice, where liability is really sophisticated, I'll send highly vetted leads to my referral sources. And I find that there is very little to no fumbling on conversion on cases I want, because I really own the conversion process.
It's such a profound point that, as they say, there's holes in the bucket. And if you cannot plug those holes, and you might be killing it on lead gen, but you can't get to the finish line, then the ROI is going to be terrible. Your profitability might drop because you're spending money and you're not actually reaping the rewards from that. What are some of the strategies that you see law firms employing that helps them rebound on their conversion rates? Is it as simple as an outbound call team?
Yeah, I'm just gonna write something up. So there are 4 kinds of intakes. Got a little notepad here. All right. Are you able to see this?
Yeah, sure. Good.
4 categories, okay? Live leads, form fills, schedule callback, follow-up. Live leads, form fills, schedule callback, follow-up. in that order: live leads, form fills, schedule callback, follow-up is conversion percentage. As you go down this, your conversion percentage will generally go down. So what I do for my firm, for the follow-up role, that is my entry-level position for people that come to my firm. All they do is touch leads that have already been touched. Therefore, they're going to get less on the phone, but someone who's maybe newer on my team, I'm a little less stressed because the conversion percentage is lower. And that person that I want, the next catastrophic injury case, they're going to be calling in these other 3 categories: live leads, form fills, schedule callback. That's my closers club. My closers club are the only people permitted to touch those. Those are people that have been with me long enough, that have closed enough cases, that have converted at a high enough percentage that I trust that they should be touching my hottest leads. So the firms that do the best, they segment a follow-up outbound role, and they have nights and weekends outbound dialing for follow-up. This is where the money is made, is in follow-up. Yes, your conversion is lower, and if your KPI of you get a certain amount of money for a signed case is equal across these, follow-up gets neglected. Why? Because it's a lot more difficult to get a client on the phone the 10th call than the second call or the first call. So the firms that do the best, number one, they use a intake tracking software. They have Lead Docket. They have Litify. They have Clio Grow. They have some sort of intake tracking software, and they have an emphasis and they have a specific person who is dedicated only to doing outbound dialing for follow-up. Does that make sense?
Totally. It sounds like you really have to map this out, right? You are mapping out that journey and the duration of when you would expect a lead to stay fresh versus stale, and then construct your follow-up process, your intake process accordingly to match that journey of the lead.
Yep. And because my firm today only is based on generation and intake, my trial work, my sophisticated deposition is intake. This is my entire focus, is refining this process. And for my own firm, having a KPI structure that incentivizes signed cases plus a team bonus for every signed case, so people don't step on each other, has been a huge impact from, in September, we had about 100-ish signed cases. As of today, we're approaching 1,000. We're at 970. And these are signed and accepted cases from my partners.
Yeah, it's incredible. We started on the back end in terms of the conversions. Let's talk about the more public facing, the wider net, which is the content you've been creating on TikTok for a couple of years now. And I was hoping you could start with your mindset. So you're watching some Gary Vee content somewhere on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, Instagram, and you start thinking about TikTok. How did you approach your content creation on there at first? Did you linger a bit and check it out? Did you say, you know what, I have a feeling I should go toward this? How did you actually dive in and how that shaped your content in the early days?
Yeah, sure. So it started very much on a frequently asked questions basis. So I would come up with topics based on questions I was hearing multiple times on intakes and things like that with clients. So, if I got asked, what does UIM mean? Underinsured motorist coverage. What is limited tort, which is very niche Pennsylvania tort reform law? What do I do if I get in a car crash? What do I do after I slip and fall? And these very sort of high level how-tos there was a few lawyers on there before me. One was the lawyer, the other was the GA lawyer. And their content, the lawyer is like G-rated, silly content, like totally joking in all of his content. The GA lawyer was more like personal. It was kind of like her vlog, basically. Whereas mine was, if this situation, do these 3 things, do these 5 things. And the most important plug that built trust is I never actually say to hire me. That I would define as billboard. So it's just value driven. What does the viewer sitting on the couch who's watching and scrolling through TikTok, what are they taking and learning from what they just watched from me? Did I just help them the next time they're in a car crash? Did I just help them to know what to do to not, preserve the evidence the wrong way in a premises liability case. And I would pick these areas that really at the time, there was 5 of us in the country in total putting out any content at all like this. And now, it's a flood. So I don't want to sound obnoxious with this, but ways that I strategically did it, like when I was doing it, I wasn't copying anybody. There was no one to copy at the time. So my strategies were truly original. I never did it off of what someone else was doing. It was just how can I give the viewer something that they can then put in their pocket and save for later?
One of the great things about TikTok is the algorithm and the ability for it to really home in on what people are liking and then serve them up videos that are very similar in that vein. Did that require you to have to pay close attention to TikTok trends and whether the sounds, whether the styles? If you scroll down to many lawyers' bottom of their TikTok feeds, almost all of them start with those pointing videos where they just have music. They're not saying anything, but they're pointing at the words on the screen because that was the way to do videos at a certain point.
I did the first one of those, literally the first one on TikTok as a legal, concept was mine.
So how much?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
How much is the burden on a TikTok creator to stay up to date on trends to be able to continue doing well with the algorithm?
Sure. So trends are just one lane. There is frequently asked questions. There is how-tos. There is trends. It's sort of a blend of all of these things that mix together that create a good social strategy. Now, you don't want to just do trends. You don't want to just do lawyer reacts. You don't want to just do frequently asked questions because, I actually think the next wave of the most relatable content is not even talking about the law at all. It's talking about, things that you're interested in that someone might resonate with. I'm contemplating just talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, but, since the Super Bowl loss has been too emotional for me. But, having a channel that lawyer who talks about sports, that's more relatable now than just, lawyer who talks about law. Law's boring. You have to weave it in and out, but someone who does a fantastic job of weaving in and out of the law, trends, topics. If you go look on YouTube, Attorney Tom is a buddy of mine. He really broke ground on TikTok, and his breaking ground was hilarious. He basically wrote a fake motion to the TikTok bar and tagged the 6 of us at the time that were on it. And it trended. I I don't know. I read whatever it's called on TikTok. I forget, where you kind of post, I do edit it where I could have it next to me. And all of a sudden now Tom is way more popular and way more hilarious than me. Someone else that is actually building a course that I actually just signed up for. Law by Mike is the most viewed lawyer online. He took what I did on steroids. He's really fantastic at content creation. And he actually just came out with a course that he's starting to sell, basically helping people come up with topics, how to video better, how to set up your entire process essentially. So, there are now more resources than there used to be, but, at the end of the day, just doing is the most important starting point. Just do it. Record vertical video, post it to all the vertical platforms, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok, Facebook. Create long form content if you'd like. Post it to YouTube. And you can repurpose it. So you shouldn't be posting for one platform, in my opinion. You should record based on the orientation, vertical and horizontal, and then you can post it to all the platforms.
What's your opinion of the day in the life type videos, normally with voiceovers? I have noticed that there's a fair amount of female attorneys. Maybe I have a bad sample size, but I feel like it's more on the female side than the male side of attorneys living their life. They're going out to dinner with their spouse. They're going shopping. What's your take on those? And is that closer to the affinity type marketing that you referred to about the sports?
Yeah. I think it's closer to the affinity. Listen, just try different types of things, see what resonates. The data will show what works. I personally am of the opinion that people generally don't care about you. They care about themselves. So I try to give in every piece of content as much as I can. So like day in the life is not something I probably would do unless it was more of a community building exercise where you're kind of like using it as a framing of not like, hey, you should hire me, but more in like a, hey, if you want to become a lawyer, this is what your day-to-day would look like. So, it's kind of just, if it's education based, it can work, but if it's selfish based, it's not.
Did you have any concern about being so early on TikTok that you might have been too early or early on a platform that didn't really survive? You've got the graveyard, including Google Plus, of perhaps Clubhouse sometime soon. Was that at all concern of yours?
No. Being early and being wrong is not a problem. Being too late and being wrong is a problem. So if I was wrong about TikTok, I'd be in the exact same position I am right now. But because I was right, I now have a nationwide brand at 30 years old with 100 million impressions. The upside of being right when you are first in line is exponential. So don't let sort of a hesitation of, well, should I do this? Should I not? Am I scared? That is what slows you down from being, a leader in the space, a game changer in the space, someone that makes the space different. And my vision is to place 1 million jobs and to represent more people than anyone ever. That only happens if I'm first in line and I take risks. So
one of the things I remind my clients who are often on the B2B side is that being first to do something doesn't mean you're the first ever to do it. It just means that you are taking a different approach and taking a different view based on the audience, based on your practice area. For example, there are plenty of corporate law firms that put out some kind of foundational research product or research project. They can then slice and dice and fuel their content and thought leadership and business development efforts for a year. But if you're the first firm to do it in a particular area, you've got a little bit of leeway because you've seen other firms do this. And there's the joke that lawyers never want to be first, they want to be second. They want to know that someone else has done it, then they can go forward and do it on their own time. So I think it's important to understand that being early to something doesn't mean that you have to be the third attorney on TikTok. It could be that you are the first family law firm to do this kind of program in this space and test it. And there's no reason why you have to spend $30,000 to invest in something where you can throw a couple $100, throw a couple thousand to try it and see what happens. Yeah. And if, to your point, being late and wrong is worse than being early and wrong.
Yeah. I mean, let's just back up here. Everybody watching this, if you're not on social media, you're late. I'm just making that clear. You're not early anymore. You're late now. So now you're just keeping up. So, typically in a client research process, a millennial research process specifically, who are, going to be soon the most populated part of our planet, a millennial won't just go to your, see a billboard and convert. They will not. They will go and check out your website, see how many Google reviews you have. Great. That's layer one. Then they'll pop on an Instagram, see if you exist. If you don't have a presence at all, or if it's too template cookie cutter, they won't hire you anymore. So social media, organic social media is required now. It's required like a website was 5 years ago. If you don't have a website right now, you're kind of like, it's like, what are you doing? But if you have a website and you don't have an Instagram, you don't have a TikTok, you don't have a YouTube, in a year from today, it's going to be like not having a website feels right now. So, you can't, the old theory of like, if you do good work, clients will come. No, if you are where eyeballs are, clients will come. I can tell you as a 30-year-old who started their own practice, has been a part of a big content generation firm who has generated tons of clients. I would not be generating the amount of cases or have 100 Google reviews of 5 stars if I was not in people's face all the time consistently. So it's almost like if you aren't on social right now, you're not only just falling behind, you're becoming kind of like a scary option for someone to hire, because you just need a baseline of social media exposure to just not look like, a hole in the closet law firm.
Do you advise law firms and lawyers, would you advise them to spread out and go on Instagram, go on Facebook, go on TikTok, or do you counsel to be more narrow in terms of the social media channels they choose to pursue?
So there's really three types of content that I suggest you think about. Content type 1 is short form. Content type 2 is long form video between 3 to 7 minutes for horizontal orientation YouTube. But what you got to keep in mind is that YouTube is more of an SEO play than it is a video play. Yes, if you have a video that people engage with and organically, you somehow struck gold on what not to say to an insurance company and it goes viral, which won't happen as your expectation, just so you know. That is more of an SEO play. Your goal on YouTube, specifically YouTube, is to get monetized. Once you get monetized, then you start showing up in the suggested search. If your descriptions on your videos don't have the right keywords, no one will see your videos, because YouTube is the second most searched platform on the planet. So the goal is for people to land on your videos. Whereas with TikTok, there was a website, Wayne, I'm not sure if you remember this. It was Stumble Upon. Do you remember that website?
Sure, of course.
So Stumble Upon, you would go on this website, you click a button, and it would literally stumble upon a random website on the internet. That is TikTok. The For You page on TikTok, people are not intending to see your content. They just happen to maybe interact with some similar things, so TikTok pushes yours to theirs. There is no intent on that topic. So short form video is the quickest thing to get started. Pure value driving. Do not ask for someone to hire you. That's the easiest place to start. You should repurpose that content on all the platforms: YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Facebook, TikTok. Repurpose that same content on those 4 things. YouTube, unless you have an in-house SEO researcher, you should not stress about doing long-form content. That's a much bigger production. As you can tell, I have a room for it.
Yeah.
In terms of B2B, though, I would be focused on LinkedIn. LinkedIn written word content. LinkedIn is not a video platform. If you notice, I did not say to post your stuff on there. Wayne does a good job of it because he has the keywords around it for it to rank the right way. But generally speaking, LinkedIn is more written word and engagement through the written word. So in terms of how you do B2B marketing, I would be writing thought-provoking pieces of content. And this might be a more comfortable starting place for people who don't want to necessarily be on camera. You might be an excellent writer. That might be a great content strategy for you. You write a thought-provoking piece of content with a thought-provoking question at the end, and then you use Gary Vee's 2 cents policy, where you go on to other pieces of content and you comment your 2 cents. So hope that's sort of my crash course, Wayne.
Well, and I think it's so important that people understand that their audience might not be homogeneous. They might have people who are in different platforms looking at different things. And on one hand, if you're a small operation, you can't expect to be doing all the work yourself, and it might be too much. Maybe you just build a following on Instagram or TikTok, and then you move on to other platforms, or you find an AI-based service that can repurpose content for you easily and cheaply. And then when you scale up, then you start thinking strategically about, maybe Instagram is more of a recruiting tool, and that'll be videos of behind the scenes. TikTok will be more personal, so people can get to know me. LinkedIn will be more serious. And now people can get this 360 view of you based on a composite view created by all the individual social media channels. I think that is a way to approach it when you have to kind of go step by step. You can't just launch with a full content creation staff that you're paying $300,000 a year total to, because you're creating content, video, audio, and written word so often.
Yeah. And on that subject, Wayne, without my team, I would not be able to put out as much content as I do. I put out like 20 pieces of content a week. So I have a full-time video editor. I have a social media manager who makes sure that DMs and comments are properly responded to from my frequently asked questions bank I've been building for 3 years. I don't miss things on my social. I'm vigilant about it. But if it wasn't so simple that I literally just sit in front of this room, pop in the chip, put it in my computer and throw it in a drive and say, I'm done with my part, I wouldn't be able to scale it the way that I have. My entire team are VAs. The VA editing strategy is a much longer ramp up period. It will be way more dependent on you as the owner of that process. The much faster route is hiring somebody stateside. But like Wayne said, these are not cheap people. They have expensive equipment. They have degrees in this stuff. They're really excellent at editing. So, the longer terms, more scalable approach might be a VA approach for your editing. But it's not an overnight process. It took me months and months and months to be able to have my team do what they do now.
For those people out there who are listening or who are watching and are not thrilled with the idea of them being on camera, whether it's just they don't think they do well on camera, whether they think they're more of a written word person, do you, Ethen, think that people can learn camera presence and can learn to be an effective presenter for the purposes of social media over time if they spend time and energy intentionally trying to get better?
Yeah, I forget what the book was called, but my first content creation strategy was actually through a video email program called BombBomb, B-O-M-B,
Sure.
B-O-M-B. And I would send video emails, and the basic strategy within BombBomb helped me with TikTok, which is your first cut is the most authentic. So for me, I rarely do a second cut. I really try the first cut to have that be my final cut. So, for me, my most genuine strategy is to fumble on my words sometimes. It's to be myself, and I don't stress about it. So in terms of a starting point for people, look on Amazon. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. Maybe, Wayne, you can find it for the listeners and for the crowd. Maybe put it in the bio. There's a book that BombBomb sold that just basically teaches the basics of setting up your camera, front lighting, how to approach the content. And it's like 100-page book. And that book actually helped me learn the very, very basic starting points of content creation.
Do you think people care about a video being too informal? Do you think people are going to look at an attorney and see them walking around outside or see them with their dog jumping up behind them or their kid running in and think negatively about that? Because I think there's a lot of lawyers, especially lawyers, who are concerned that informality somehow suggests weakness or lack of intelligence or lack of seriousness. I'm curious what your thoughts are about that.
So yes, the answer is yes. And you have to accept that some people won't like your content. It's okay. If you are pissing off someone, that means you are doing something right. In my opinion, I made it when I got my first cease and desist, so, in terms of doing it the right way, there is no right way. Being your authentic self means sometimes telling a story that's a little more personal than you want to get. The more genuine you are with your crowd, then the more genuine your clients will be with you as their attorney. So you can expect that people will judge you. You can expect that people won't like your content. Who gives a shit? Just run with it. Let them not like you. Let them talk about it to their friends.
There are some people who will tell you that viewership numbers and engagement numbers on social media are pure vanity numbers. They don't mean anything unless you're getting leads or clients and bringing in ultimately dollars into your firm or your business. In your view, is that true? And does that mean that it's only a lead gen tool and it can't be a branding tool?
No. So in my practice, there's the organic land and there's the ads land. Ads land, my focus is to drive clients with a call to action to hire me. In organic land, though, it's to educate the crowd so that when they're doing research about me, they know I'm a legit person and that I know what I'm talking about. So this is sort of authority building more than it is even brand building. Instances of me speaking on stage, talking about nuanced, complicated areas of the law, This is my brain surgery over here, is the organic land. So, in terms of generating cases, you're not going to generate a crazy amount of organic cases for years and years. It just won't happen. And your expectations need to be that on your first TikTok, you're not going to go viral like I did, because that opportunity isn't there anymore. It should be, not so focused on lead gen on the organic, but yes, go run an ad on Facebook that asks for your client to hire you in certain kinds of cases, but do it in a way that, the way that I target ads, and I know we're not going to get too into this, but I'll just kind of touch on it philosophically because it's tied to this. The people on Facebook that will hire you are the ones that don't know they need you, don't know they have a problem. So for example, in my practice, I represent people for mass torts. So for example, I ran a campaign on the Philips CPAP recall. People don't realize that their lung cancer was from the Philips CPAP they've been using for 15 years. So by saying, if you were a loved one, use a Philips CPAP, please watch this short video. Did you know it was recalled and your lung cancer could be connected to that? Click below. Now you're an authority. They trust you because you just told them. I mean, who doesn't want to know where their cancer is from, for God's sake? You just gave them maybe the most valuable information they've ever received in a punchy video, and you're giving them clear direction. Go hire me. That's ad land. But in organic land, the way that you generate cases, generally speaking, is from comments. It's from DMs, and it's from mining those processes so that you're aware and ready when people do come to you, but you shouldn't expect it to flood in over there.
I like the idea of the organic social media as priming the pump, as giving people a chance to see a longer kind of volume of a longer duration of videos of you, a longer kind of library of videos of you, get to know you through these videos. And then to your point, when they might need you, then that's when they might call, or they might forget about you, then see you on Facebook or an Instagram ad and call you. But the idea to warm people up so you are not just another lawyer, but they feel like they know you, they've heard your voice, they see your face, maybe they've seen you out and about with family or your dog or whatever, but people need to feel a connection these days because it's so easy to through social media after you follow someone for so long. So I like that idea of the yin and yang of the paid with the organic. And I think that might make people feel better that they don't have to have the pressure of TikTok being the only way to bring in cases. It's complementary.
It's not the way to do it. It's
right.
It's sort of is like if someone is doing an extra layer of research and they just make sure you might not ever get clear attribution. They might bounce from your website to TikTok to Instagram back to your website, then convert. Is that a website conversion attribution? Is that a TikTok conversion attribution? No, they all are omni-channel to help make sure that you are credible for when they're ready.
Do you have any pushback from clients who see you, they see your face, they hear your face, they follow you, and then they come to your firm only to learn that you, Ethen, are not going to be the attorney who's going to help them throughout their legal process?
Great question. I do not deal with a problem with that because I am extremely transparent about my business model. So what people don't know is the right lawyer for their situation. I solve that for them. I'm humble enough to say if I were handling your medical malpractice case, it might be malpractice for me to do so because I don't have the level of experience that some of the best in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh have. They have armies for this process. They are the right firm for you. And that's why. So by taking your time and setting the expectations that, hey, you wouldn't want Ethen to be handling this case. I'm here to connect you with the right firm basically for free because I share on their fee. So it's a 100% value add. I basically frame it that I open my Rolodex to my clients so that they don't have to go and pick and choose for themselves. And the fact that I plug them to the right place, I have seen very high conversion rate, no friction on that process, and people really get the concept and they appreciate it. So it's not a conversation of, I don't really do much convincing. The value is very inherent, and I don't see a problem with that process because I set the expectations the right way. And on my site, if you go look at it, I'm very clear about my language. It does not say you're hiring Ethen. It says Ethen will connect you with his connections. Ethen will, plug you to the right firm. His firm and referral partners are the right firms for you. So I kind of skip the research stage for them.
I like that idea, you being the guide, almost like the concierge, helping them through this process early on, guiding them to the right firm. What would you say to the attorney at the 3-person immigration firm or the 2-person family law firm who is the face of their firm? They're going to bring in the case and their firm would handle it. How would you advise them to deal with that kind of issue where they see Ethen, the local family attorney, and they want Ethen, but Ethen wants to give it to an associate or a paralegal to handle?
So first off, if you go around and brag to your colleagues every time I get on the phone with a client, they sign, that's a problem. You should have that conversion rate. It's not about you. It's about answering the client's questions. I can tell you, as someone who has not done intakes in a very long time and has signed over 600 cases since the beginning of the year, it doesn't have to be you that closes that client at all. It doesn't. So for the firm that, is concerned about that and promises to every client, you will talk to me personally. Guess what? They just care that they're getting answers. It's not about you. It's about them. So if your team is trained appropriately to answer those frequently asked questions, and you set up the systems so that it takes you out of the weeds, because really at a certain point, you as the CEO of your firm, you are providing the most value working on your business, not being in the business. So every minute you spend executing on tasks within the pipeline takes away value at an exponential rate for your business's growth. So, longer term, for the small firms, my suggestion is to keep your foot on the pedal with your marketing. If you have the ability to generate cases, never stop. Use referrals as your release valve. If you are a family law attorney and for some reason you're generating a bunch of personal injury cases, don't turn that channel off. Just find someone you can co-counsel with on a 50-50, 40%, 1/3, 25. Doesn't matter. It's still not your opportunity cost. So, using referrals as your release valve, handling and scaling as you can, but know the more you handle, the more overhead you're going to have to carry, the more case costs you're going to have to carry, unless you have a upfront cash flow model like a criminal or a family law. The personal injury firms, the more you handle can lead to a glut, which is not good for your clients. So, that's kind of a big picture, framework of that.
The release valve that, oh, by the way, could actually be an independent cash flow source for you and could fund your primary practice, your expansion. You want to hire people. You want to test out what a new practice might look like. Having that quote unquote mailbox money come in over time is a huge advantage. And gosh, how many law firms over the course of the recent decades have left that money on the table because someone called about PI and they said, oh, we're a family law firm, click. And they lose that chance to get two-way referrals from a PI firm or other law firms. It blows my mind how much money is on the table there.
Generally speaking, you should never turn something down. You should try your best to find a home for it. If you can't, and then keep that email, put them on your newsletter, and just reach out to those people. Emails are gold. We are data mining gold. That's all we're doing.
And even if that referral doesn't take that client's case, you've engaged that other referral source, and who knows what they may send to you today, tomorrow, next week, next month. As we start to wrap up, I want to leave you with 2 questions. What was something that you wish you knew about short form video, about TikTok, about video marketing generally when you started that you know now?
So there was a period of time where I stopped on TikTok, even after having a few 100,000 followers. I know it sounds crazy. When I started on there, I think I got on there for the wrong reasons. I think I got on there for Ethen's ego. Once I cracked 200,000 followers, just something happened to me. I realized it was about Ethen growing, not about providing as much value as I was promising to my clients. And my content started to feel disingenuous. So being humble, I wish that I knew that, number one, my opportunity was so temporary and I should have put the foot on the gas much more than I even did. And number two, I realized after a few years why I was doing it. And when I realized no one really gave a shit about me, I was just early. People followed me like a militia. At the time, anybody could get followers at that time. It had nothing to do with the quality of my content. And when I learned that, then I started to transition my focus to doing right for the client, giving information they did not have access to, and doing the right thing for, the industry generally. So once I kind of got away from this is what's best for Ethen, I want to get my name out there, to this is what's best for the industry and for people and for people's education, then the content started to feel a little more genuine, and I started getting better results, actually.
It's amazing how that works. When you serve the public interest, you serve society, that karma comes back to you in various ways. What do you see, last question here, what do you see as the future of legal marketing, especially content marketing? Everyone talks about Chat GPT, now we're up to GPT-4, but where do you see over the course of the next few years legal marketing going?
I think we're going to have people catching up with where a lot of people are already, like myself, for this next maybe 18 months. There's such an opportunity in Facebook ads right now to generate cases. I don't think that that's a forever thing. I think it's a 2 to 3 year window. So the next wave of social media, in my opinion, will be decentralized social media. I imagine the next big platform will be one that pays users to scroll, pays users for their data, and the advertisers skip paying Facebook to advertise, and they go directly to paying the user to advertise. There will be a platform that figures that out. And I think that every single social media, 4 years down the line, I think they're all in trouble from that one platform that figures out how users monetize their own data by just scrolling. So, there are a lot of concepts out there that involve blockchain, and I do imagine that blockchain will have a huge impact in the social media space. It just hasn't happened yet. In terms of, where the market's going, I mean, I'm a toxic tort lawyer. It's something that I'm really passionate about. I think that there is a uncomfortable amount of people getting cancer, and it's preventable. I view cancer cases as the new car crash case, as sad as that is to say. And cancer, generally speaking, is genetics plus exposure, but mostly exposure. And whether it's water, air, there are several pollutants in our deodorant and our shampoos. And I think product recall cancer cases are going to be overtaking the market in the next 3 to 5 years, because cars are going to get safer and safer. Thank God. As smart cars come out, as self-driving cars come out, there will be less accidents, which is good for humanity, but there will be more cancer because there is a disgusting amount of chemicals in our stuff that we just drink. So, that's where I see the market going. I think that those are the cases to accumulate right now. I have about 1,000 of them, and I'm not turning off the speed.
Well, and there's the data mining where you get to know the people in your database. What problems do they have? What products have they used? And then when news breaks of a new product being linked to cancer, you can email that database and say, are you using XYZ? Recent news reports or recent studies show, and they've gotten to know you because you've emailed them over the course of a couple of years, and they are primed to give you their case because they know you and you're in contact with them. So that's a fascinating marriage of a very pessimistic view of the future, but also the value of building a list and getting in front of people and building relationships with potential clients.
Yeah, I think that the best decision that a law firm owner who's watching this could make today is to invest in their operations, invest in their case management systems, invest in an intake system. Both of them, they're two different things. If you're not managing your leads well, ask yourself, could I double my lead volume and keep the same conversion percentage? If the answer is no, that is a gaping hole and is preventing you from growing. Could you double your case count and be just as efficient? If the answer is no, then your North Star is to build an assembly line approach on non-client facing tasks so that your case managers focus mostly on client contact. You know, the getting of deck pages, the getting of police reports, the getting of bill balances, calling adjusters to see if they received your demand. That does not drive an ROI for your firm. Those things delegated appropriately will help you get to where you want to get to, which means you don't have to be stuck on the phone waiting for an adjuster to pick up. Imagine if you had someone at your firm who called the adjuster and put them on hold. I have clients that do that with my VAs right now. It's pretty funny.
That's great.
But yeah, so the future of the law, if you today are not taking your data seriously, you have a problem. If you're not building your systems so that you have a solution that you could still be on in 10 years, like Salesforce, you know, like I'm on, then you're already behind. So
a great piece of advice and great wise words to end the episode on. Ethen, where can people find you? Where would you prefer them to go to learn more about you, the firm, your social media efforts? Send them
yeah,
somewhere.
Sure. I would scope out some of my social. My handle is Ethen Ostroff Law, and I spell my name with 2 E's. Of course, there's a story behind that too at some point, maybe for another day. My website is ethenostrofflaw.com. Go check it out. If you think I can improve on anything, I love critical feedback. Please, you know, shoot me an email, and I'm happy to provide my email for Wayne so that, you know, if someone wants to reach out to me directly, you know, I book calls all the time with people. If it's something that I can help you with, great. And you know, we'll kind of go from there.
All right, Ethen, thank you so very much for all the knowledge and wisdom and the masterclass you've given on so many aspects today of running a business, operating it, marketing it. Thank you.
Yeah. The last thing, so something that we are doing through my virtual assistant company, we are doing a free audit of your intake. We will secret shop your firm, pretend to be clients, and tell you where your holes are. So if you want to sign up for a free audit of your intake process, I promise you don't need to hire VAs. You don't need to do anything. We will audit your intake process and tell you where you're making mistakes. I'll put a link for that in the description on this video.
Yeah, please do. And that could be like a literally life-changing experience if a firm does not understand how poorly its intake process is operating, and with one free audit can get a blueprint for how to fix that leaky bucket. That literally is life-changing for the owner of the firm and the attorneys there.
Yep, would be happy to do it for anybody on here. Thank you so much, Wayne. I appreciate you having me, and you know, hopefully we can get together soon.
Yeah, Ethen, thanks so much for your time.